Hey everyone, this is Waves of Trash, my entry for the GMTK Game Jam 2023. If you don't know what that is, it's the most popular game on itch.io, if not of all game jams. This year, as tradition, it beat the last year's numbers with nearly 7,000 submissions. I entered the jam about 2 months before starting, and unfortunately I totally forgot how close it was, because I was planning to take those days off since I was working, and didn't manage to do so. Nevertheless, I worked with the cards I was dealt with, and I tried my best with the time I had, but not by myself. I managed to persuade my friend FSTR to join me, and 2 minutes before it started, I was eagerly awaiting the theme revelation.
Hi everyone, the 7th annual GMTK Game Jam begins right now. Your goal over the next 48 hours is to make a game that fits the following theme.
Roles reversed. Many ideas came to mind. In fact, about 3 hours worth of brainstorming and random shenanigans came to mind. Many ideas felt very mainstream, others were just nonsense, but a few stuck out to us. We thought about making a game where you were a blacksmith aiding heroes that were passing by to save the world. One, you were in a golf match where you had to play as a dude in the audience, you could not see the hole and had to time your clapping correctly with the other people to not stick out. If you clap too soon, too late, too fast or too slow, the golfer's confidence will be affected. Then, a game where you were in a football match, but you played as a hooligan watching the match. The match was just a background, as this was a fighting game. All this until we started honing in on the actual game. We thought of making a fishing game, where you play as a fish, but it felt a little too obvious and not good enough. A game where you fish humans, you could throw snacks like Doritos and they would come to you, and it would be called Nacho Average Fishing Game. Maybe on the beach, maybe you do it in the water, luring people on boats. But this all seemed somewhat hard to implement, so we just started thinking of simple mechanics that would be easy to add, such as movement, shooting. That's when I thought, what if you're just a fish who moves around in the ocean and you shoot at humans? How would that fit the theme, you ask? Well, humans throw stuff at the sea all the time, aka littering. So let's make a game where the ocean takes the human's role and throw trash at them instead, thus making the idea final. It also helped that we wasted like 3 hours thinking of this and the time was ticking. Making anything at this point was good enough because we just need to get started. And so we did. So we started off by dividing the tasks. He handled most of the player movement and shooting mechanic, while I handled most of the boat stuff. I made a spawner with a timer that instantiated the boat scene every few seconds. The boat was just a moving body with a sprite in a collision that turned around when it reached the edge of the screen. I also worked a bit on making a sprite for the bottom of the ocean, which was mostly unused except for the trash bag. In this game I did all of the art except for the dudes on the boat, which might be the best sprite to be honest. We also spent some time struggling with GitHub, but overall it was an alright experience. If we count the 3 hours of brainstorming and random ideas that we knew weren't gonna be used, but we still wanted to expand on them just because it was fun. We worked for about 5 hours on day 1, reaching this underwhelming but solid foundation. On day 2, after sleeping about 5 hours to get up at 7 and working until 4 PM, I promptly got to work when I got home for about 4.5 hours. During this time I made the fish sprite, both boats, with a placeholder big boat and the ocean. I then put them into Godot, handled the flipping of the sprites according to the direction, added some gradient to the water and hit effects for the boats. Then I made a different spawner for each boat, which ended up being dumb since we only need one and we can choose what boat is coming out through code. Then I obviously worked on something not important for the time being, particles. I added some particles coming from the boat in the back to simulate the water interaction. For some reason there were a lot of issues flipping the node. The particles sometimes weren't rotating with it, but only when turning right, and there was no apparent reason for this, and the fix was totally counterintuitive. But it worked, and having pretty code isn't at stake in a game jam. We take whatever we can get. Finally, I spent way too much time making the explosion effect with particles. FSTR worked mostly on the fish once again, adding the amount of trash you can hold, the stats, and making the level up screen. He also handled the code that manages how the waves work, what boats to spawn and how many to spawn depending on what wave you were on. After this, I had dinner and I had to go out. I came back at around 1 AM, way too tired, but decided to just check if he did anything in the meantime before going to bed. And of course, I also wanted to do a little something before bed, since I took the next day off for a birthday lunch and didn't know how much time I could actually work on the game this day. Obviously, my little something was spending about 2 hours, most of it by myself, making a restock area to reload, a trash spawner for the dudes on the boats, adding damage numbers when you hit them, which I copied from the game I'm developing, check it out, improving the fish sprite, making the sprite for the can the player throws, making the sprite for the bottle the dude throws, and making these throwables rotate, which looks pretty cool overall. All in all, this was probably the most tired I was during this jam, and also the most productive session for some reason. But of course I went to bed at like 4 AM and had to get up at around 11 AM for this event, so I was worried that we wouldn't be able to finish on time. The game was playable at this point, but clearly incomplete. There were very important things missing, and I made a list of them and sent them to FSTR so he would know what to work on while I was gone the next day. The items on this list were a HUD, showing you how many items you had left to throw, having the game pause after clearing a wave to pick an upgrade, everything sound related, adding a main menu and a death menu, adding a small tutorial, making the big boat sprite, and add some background stuff to make the game feel less empty, like birds or fish or something. While at lunch, people were late, food was late, and time was ticking. I wasn't sure how long it would take, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna make it on time to be of any use. There were some technical difficulties with the one guy who could actually work on the game, and after some time, when I was already on my way back home, he actually had to go too. This sure felt dramatic at the time. Also, this video might be getting a little too dramatic, but fittingly. The universe was against us. Someone, something, was plotting to remove us from the competition. They cursed us with some kind of a dark magic. They knew we were too strong together. But we could not be stopped. Alright, that's enough. His internet seemed to hold on and I managed to arrive home at around 4:30 PM and started working on making a very quick tutorial, which is just pausing the game when it starts with some instructions, and you click to start. I then got a font for the game and started working on the main menu. In the meantime, he got back with less than an hour to go, and at this point there was no sound at all in the game. So I started looking for music and he got some SFX from this website. I added the HUD showing how much ammo you have, tweaked some stats and started working on the itch.io page. After he pushed the final changes, I started exporting as we had less than 5 minutes to go and I needed to update the export settings for the newer Godot version. At the time I finished uploading, we had less than a minute remaining. Well, all in all, not the worst. We missed some stuff, there were still a few noticeable bugs, there was no camera in the game, it felt a little static, and oh, the big boat. I totally forgot about the big boat.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
That's a shame. That would be a shame. If after uploading it, we wouldn't notice there was a 1 hour extension for exporting and uploading issues and final bug fixes. This was a godsend. Everything felt doable now. We lowered our expectations so much that with the 1 extra hour we could finish exactly the way we wanted 2 minutes ago. So, with this life-saving extended time, we got to work. I made the big boat sprite, I fixed a couple of bugs with objects not disappearing after restarting, fixed a couple of sound issues, added a camera to follow the fish and tweaked some values. With 15 minutes to spare and not much time to mess with other stuff, I exported the project and uploaded it. The only thing missing from yesterday's list is the background feeling a bit empty without the passing birds or fish. But all in all, it could have been way worse. We could still have this abomination in the game. But yeah, that's the story of my first GMTK entry. Working for 14 hours out of 48 was non-ideal, but even though it was somewhat stressful, it was mostly very fun, and I'm going to definitely prepare better for the next year. Anyways, thank you for watching, and as always, I hope that you learned something from this video. Till next time.